I stood barefoot in the howling wind, a soaked blanket clinging to my shoulders, flashlight clenched between my teeth. Diane from the HOA stood on her perfectly lit porch, smirking like she'd just hit the jackpot. "Rules are rules," she said, sipping coffee as thunder rumbled. That's when I decided no more warnings, no more games. If she wanted to mess with the grid, she was about to learn who controlled it. The storm had crept in after sunset, a slow, thunderous beast that drenched the streets and rattled windows. Everyone's porch lights flickered on automatically except mine. Within minutes, my house went dark. No power, no heat, no humming fridge, which was bad news for the $500 worth of groceries I just bought. At first, I figured it was a typical outage. I stepped outside, expecting a neighborhood blackout, but every other house glowed. TVs flickered behind curtains, AC units purred, and even the inflatable dolphin in Mike's yard bobbed in the rain. My house was the only one pitch black. I went inside and checked my utility app. Access denied. A message blinked. Power VYC suspended due to HOA violation. Contact HOA administrator. The HOA? Since when did they control my electricity? A sharp knock came from the front gate. I trudged through the rain, flashlight in hand, and found a violation notice sealed in plastic, signed by Diane. Unauthorized generator use, HOA code 8B7. Immediate disconnection mandated. I laughed, confused and furious. Generator? I hadn't even turned it on. My solar system was idle, waiting for a grid failure that never came because the grid didn't fail. It was cut. I marched to Diane's porch, where she stood behind her glass door, smug as ever. "You cut my power?" I asked, breath fogging in the cold. "The HOA did," she said, like she was correcting a child. "Your solar backup was flagged as non-compliant. Grid-tied systems can't auto-engage without HOA REVYEW. It's in the bylaws." "It wasn't even on," I snapped. "And you don't have the authority to cut residential power." She smiled like she'd won. "Maybe we don't, but we did." "Want it back?" "Submit a compliance REVYEW, pay the fine, and wait for board approval." Then she sipped her coffee. I stood there, soaked, her leave-wying room lights taunting me. Something snapped, not anger, but something colder, calculated. I turned and walked home without another word. Let her think she'd won. Her next moment was mine. In my utility room behind biometric locks, my command center hummed to life. Monitors glowed, showing dashboards, live feeds, and a screen that read, "Welcome, Administrator." Diane didn't know I wasn't just a homeowner. I was the CEO of the utility company powering her HOA and 47 other communities. I signed off on her meters, managed her backups, and handled disconnects. She'd exploited an outdated compliance clause from years ago, a fluke I'd overlooked. Not anymore. I dug into the logs. 3 hours earlier, Diane had called our HOA line, using old admin credentials to request a disconnect. A junior tech, new to the job, saw the HOA flag and approved it. A 1 in a million mistake. She thought she'd gotten away with it. I could have restored my power instantly, but this wasn't about lights. It was about principle. Instead, I built a case, her call logs, my gate camera footage, her breach of grid protocol, and every HOA meeting where she'd overstepped. What she'd done wasn't just petty, it was illegal. I sent a message to compliance. Begin silent audit, HOA Sector 19B. Focus on unauthorized overrides. Then I cracked a soda, leaned back, and watched the storm. My house stayed dark, but the wheels were turning. Diane was about to learn what happens when you mess with the grid's owner. The next morning, my house was cold, but I didn't care. I kept the power off, let it stand as a monument to her arrogance. I showered with water heated the old way, ate cereal by dawn's light, and made calls to my company's internal teams. By mid-morning, 2 compliance officers were auditing HOA records. I flagged the neighborhood as a watch zone, logging every electrical irregularity. Diane wouldn't notice yet, but she'd feel it soon. By noon, alerts rolled in. The HOA clubhouse had an unapproved hot tub. Diane's brother in Unit 8 ran an illegal cable to the HOA office for his crypto miners, pulling enough power for a small town. Worse, several smart meters had been bypassed, all under Diane's authorization. She wasn't just ruling the HOA, she was rigging the grid. That afternoon, I got an invite to the HOA's monthly meeting in 2 days. I usually skip them, but this time I sent my friend Ethna, bylaws expert with the perfect poker face, in my place. I'd feed him lines via earpiece and monitor from a drone outside the clubhouse. Ethan dressed like a tech retiree, cargo shorts, baseball cap, mildly annoyed VYB. Diane wouldn't see him coming. At the meeting, Diane gloated from the podium about new rules, including power cuts during storms code for targeting whoever she disliked. Ethan raised his hand. Do these rules apply to everyone or just people you don't like? Diane froze. They're equal across all units, she said tightly. Ethan nodded, then opened a folder, listing the clubhouse's energy draw, unauthorized disconnects, and the HOA charter's rule that only licensed professionals handle utilities. Diane paled, tried to interrupt, but Ethan kept going. One more thing, he said brightly. As of 8 a.m., this neighborhood's been reclassified as a conditional use community. Your rates have changed. New bills arrive Monday. Diane sputtered, that's illegal. Ethan smiled. Not when the utility company changes your status for tampering. That's policy enforcement. Residents grumbled. One mentioned a thawed freezer. Another yelled, you can't cut power because you don't like someone. Diane snapped, I was protecting the neighborhood. Ethan dropped the bomb. Protecting us from what? The only house without power belongs to the CEO of the company powering your lights. He's not letting this go quietly. Silence fell. Diane's face reddened. A few residents clapped. She stormed out, ending the meeting. That night, the HOA got its first REVY, said Bill. Triple rates, backdated, with penalties for tampered meters due $17,000 total. Diane emailed my company, demanding to speak to someone in charge. She got an auto reply. I read it while eating popcorn. The next day, I ordered a city audit of the neighborhood's grid. Inspectors found Diane's brother's cable, a bypass meter in her garage, and an undocumented line to her pool heater. Diane blamed raccoons. The inspector asked, do raccoons install surge protectors? I watched a drone sipping coffee. Diane's empire crumbled. Residents demanded answers. At an emergency meeting, Ethan revealed her bribery attempt, offering a tech wine and a gift card to fix meters. The crowd booed her ally, Leo, out of the room. A vote removed Diane as president, replaced by Clara, a kind grandmother who brought cookies. Diane couldn't vote. Her tampered meter flagged her as a suspended account. A cease and desist letter from my legal team outlined her violations, warning of permanent commercial rates if she tried again. Diane's complaint to the county went to my cousin, Tom, who dismissed it. Tampering's a felony, not a right. The neighborhood healed. Clara's leadership brought CIVY lighty. I funded solar panels for the clubhouse and donated a digital grid monitor displaying energy stats. At its base, a plaque read, never let someone who doesn't understand the system control the switch. A tiny drone engraving made everyone laugh. Diane tried a comeback, hiring a hacker named Jake to tap the grid. My tamper sensors caught him, and a drone's warning sent him sprawling. The footage went viral, dubbed Diane and Jake versus the drone. A news segment mocked her corporate overreach claims. A federal compliance letter citing energy violations made her faint. Diane sold her house with difficulty. Her infamy scared buyers. She left quietly in a U-Haul at dawn. The neighborhood thrived, hosting PowerFest to celebrate resilience. A plaque honored the community with a jab, in memory of Diane's outlets. Kids played, neighbors laughed, and the grid hummed strong. Diane was gone, but the real power belonged to the people.